when you're in pain, soothing as a springtime rain, to have a friend right in your corner, your heart will feel a little warmer. Tender loving care, tender loving care, each warm and friendly touch lets someone know you care so much. Tender loving care, tender loving care.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Greenbrier Almond, and thank you for joining us on our program, Tender Loving Care. For the past 35 years, we've been talking about this interface between health and creativity and wholeness. And I know that we've had interesting guests, but we have a super duper guest today. Tom, thank you for coming on. You are
You're very welcome.
great asset to our community, not only as the chairperson of community health of Rock Cave, which is now over many places in West Virginia, and as we're going to find out today, you're a wonderful artist with wood.
Yes.
And so we welcome you to the program.
Thank you very much, Greenbrier. I'm very happy to be here. And happy to talk about what I've been doing in the community with the arts and with healthcare, and talk about my chairmaking. And
Great, yeah. You well, let's talk a little bit about. You have had a role in the Artistry on Main, which is what we now call this center, which is open every day of the year except Christmas and Easter.
Right.
It's open on Sundays. It's open on many holidays. But you helped organize the very first Artistry on Main.
Yes, I did. It was back in 2009, and we had a group of artists who were interested in producing and selling their work in Buchanan, and we had the ear of the Development Authority here in Upshur County, and as well as the West Virginia Wesleyan College was very interested in helping promote the arts and having their students be involved in that process. So we had quite a coalition of people and organizations who helped get it started. It was a group effort.
Yeah, but you were right there on the front line.
I was
part of the leadership, so we appreciate that.
I was president until just recently of the group. We had reformed the group just this past year. We reopened in April.
Okay.
With a whole new format. Every artist gets 100% of the sales. Artist has responsibility of being here once a month to keep the doors open, and we are keeping the doors open 7 days a week.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I just don't practice medicine like I used to, as people know who stop me on the street and ask if I'm still have an office. But I have been very busy. But I'm glad to take my turn, usually on a Saturday or sometime when it seems like I have more free time.
Well, and we do encourage all the different arts. Greenbrier, you're an author, so we have your books here, and we have at least one other author. We have a musical group. We have stained glass artists and blown glass artists. We have woodworkers, wood carvers, bowl turners, potters, textile artists. A very large group. Varied group
38 artists now, I believe.
That's correct, 38
Wow.
artists. And we're always looking for artists out there who would like to come in and sell their work, be part of this group. We have a waiting list now and a jurying process.
Okay.
So you have to come in and have your work looked at by a group, the group.
So I have people, and I'm just going to pick on a community, wherever the cable system goes, but I have people from out at Alton stop me on the street and say they're watching. So if you're an artist and you live in Alton, contact us, right?
Or anywhere in the state.
Yeah,
really.
Anywhere, really.
Yeah.
The other thing maybe to emphasize, and then we want to talk a little bit about your own personal interest in art, but we're right here on Main Street. We're right across from the Dairy Queen.
That's right.
This is the best place on Main Street.
That's right.
And it's in the old home hardware building. a wonderful building that's being restored, and as you say, the Artistry on Main has improved. I think it was through January through April, the building has been improved in some other ways. I mean, still very old-fashioned and everything,
That's
but
right.
the air conditioning's on and the lighting's a little better and so forth like that.
Yes. A modern facility, but we still have the original floors and the original ceilings. It really has a nice feel to the space.
Yeah.
And in the back of the retail space is where we have our classes. We just started our classes about 6 weeks ago, and we've had painting classes, and
I can say that my sister Beth, who's a writer, and taught a writing class last week for 2 days.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful space for that. And they could take their break and cross the street and get an ice cream cone, but they could create writing, 12 members in the class, and those go on and on and on, right? People can stop at a bulletin board out front.
Yes.
And check out the future classes, or come inside and there's a book people can look at for future class.
Yes.
We're online, right? We're online.
We are online. We are developing our website right now. So we are developing new classes all the time. We're really suggesting people come in and sign our guest book, leave their email address behind so we can contact them about classes and make suggestions about what kind of classes they would like to have. And we'll work on bringing those artists in, who will, those teachers, and have those classes.
Yeah.
So,
well, Tom, you started off by saying you had the healthcare interest and the wood interest. How did you get interested in wood? And then it's not one piece of wood; it's a variety of things we're going to look at today. But where did your interest come from?
Well, I think I gained my father was a tinkerer. He wasn't a woodworker. He was a doctor.
Okay.
He was an MD, but he was a handyman, and he had a workshop in his basement, our basement of our house. And so I got to see some tool use, and I think it was in high school when I had a shop class that I really fell in love with wood.
Okay. Wow.
And that was in 1967.
Wow. Okay.
So
you have a 50-year run here on wood.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes.
That's good. There's a wood story. I'm a Dr. Wood story. And people may want to go to Dr. Cunningham's museum in Pickens, West Virginia. It's one of the few towns in West Virginia where the town folk have felt good enough about their doctor to actually keep his office open and have a museum in his honor. But in any event, Dr. Cunningham had a man who needed a peg leg. It was a railroad accident. He lost his leg, and he knew enough about wood that he made it out of apple. He said that apple would not expand and not shrink with the weather, and would make an excellent peg leg, and in fact it did.
Very
so
good.
Dr. Cunningham carved a peg leg for this patient.
Well, I also grow apples. I have an apple
Okay.
orchard, and I manage and maintain the Altman orchards in Rock Cave, and we press cider every year.
Okay.
Organic cider.
Okay.
We sell it fresh, freshly frozen.
So all things wood.
All things wood.
Okay.
That's right. But I have not made an applewood chair yet.
Okay.
Maybe someday I will, though.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about then, what do you do and how do you do it? I mean, because we want to know the creativity. Maybe Tom will teach a class someday, and this will spark your interest, and you want to come and take a class.
Well, I do teach classes every summer.
Okay.
I teach a class at the Augusta Heritage Festival, which is happening right now. It's a 1-week class, and we make a chair very similar to this chair here, a rustic chair.
Now, Tom, Rodney can focus in on that chair. You may want to describe that some more.
This chair is made from ironwood, and it has a hickory bark seat. It's made by using a technique called greenwood joinery. So this is a traditional chair making technique that I learned when I first started making chairs in Rock Cave at the Linger Chair Factory.
And the joinery is you're talking about where these
That's
join
right.
together.
Where these mortises, this is called a mortise and tenon joint, and the post is the posts are all air dried, so they're a little bit damp. They're maybe 20% moisture. They're going to continue to shrink after the chair's put together. But the rungs, all the rungs in the seat all around the chair, are all oven dried. They're dead bone dry. clack when you hit them. They're just 2% moisture. So when the chair's assembled, I'm drilling into this green wood and I'm inserting this dry piece of wood. The green wood shrinks around that dry piece and creates a very tight fit. And traditionally, they didn't even use glue. I do use glue. I use a waterproof glue. So this is the technique that I learned making chairs in the late 70s. And I continue to use that same technique in my rustic work and in teaching my rustic work, and also in my more refined shaker style chairs.
Now you identified the wood as ironwood.
Yep.
To me, that means a very hard wood.
That's a very hard wood.
Okay, so that's what the old people would say, and that's the characteristic of that wood.
It's also called blue beech. It's called musclewood. It's called American hornbeam.
Wow.
Yeah, is the name.
Okay.
Or Virginia, Carpinus virginianica.
Ah. Okay.
Carpine, that's the Latin name. So
you know the Latin. Okay.
Yeah.
Your botany teacher is very happy. And you mentioned hickory.
Yes, the hickory bark, I harvest that myself every spring. Springtime's the only time you can harvest it. And I cut the tree down and I cut in sheets of bark off and take off that outer bark. And it's the inner bark that I use for the seats.
So you're planning to, you should say cut the tree down. You're planning then to use this material for many chairs or many products.
The bark.
The bark.
Yes.
Bark. Okay.
All the seats are, that I weave it.
Wow.
And it's a traditional Appalachian material for chair seats. Yeah.
Now it strikes me that chair is a little higher than some of the commercial chairs, but I may be wrong. It just looks like you're...
Well, that's not a chair, Greenbrier. That's a counter stool.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Now, if you had a counter here, the counter would be 36 inches.
No, that's perfect.
24-inch seat. I do a lot of custom making chairs for people who have I see a counter that's a little bit higher than normal. They want a chair that's a little lower, a little bit higher, and I'll custom make chairs to fit their location, their choice of wood, and their height of their chairs, or their width. So I had made a set of chairs recently that they had to get 12 chairs around this table, but the table really, it wouldn't fit 12 chairs. So they asked me to just make them just an inch or two smaller, and we got the chairs to fit. And
well,
very happy.
And my doctoring person inside of me was looking at that chair and saying, okay, this is a good arthritic chair. Of course, it's a counter chair too, but it would be, you would not have to sit down so far, and you could get up easier.
Yes.
Yeah,
this is true.
So, but you would do that for someone. You could come to you and say, Tom, I have this special need for this chair.
Right.
And you work with the person.
Yes.
Wow. Very good. What else do we have here? You have so many wood products.
Well, I might say also that the hickory bark, I do chair repairs. And I'll put new seats in chairs that have been in people's families for generations. Grandma's old chair that's been sitting in the garage for forever. Well, so I'm very happy to help people get their family heirlooms back in shape so they can use them again.
That is very important service, because I go to these auctions from time to time. My wife drags me to them, But I see a nice chair and the bottom's all gone, and the price is very cheap. But with a little bit of tender, loving care, that chair is restored.
Right.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Good news.
Yeah.
What else do you want to show us today, Tom? Because there's so many things here that are, any of them are wonderful. And now this one I know personally, I'll endorse it because my granddaughters are the owners of these toys.
Yes. This is a baby rattle that's turned from one piece of wood. The rattle, the rings are integral to the whole piece. It's an old wood turning trick that's probably 1,000 years old, maybe even more, as old as the lathe is. The lathe is one of the very first woodworking machines. The Celts had wood lathes, BC, and I don't know what BC, but wood lathe is I think the oldest woodworking machine. So this is an old trick. It's called a captive ring turning.
In the Bible they mention the cedars of Lebanon. I don't know how Solomon's temple was made, but wood has been worked with forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And what else? By the way, that's a very good toy. My children in particular have decided they didn't want the commercial toys that make a lot of noise. They want toys that children can do things
Right.
with. If they want to make their own rattle noise, that's one thing. But
Yeah.
they didn't want them to play endless songs that the children didn't need to know about right
And
now.
finding a toy made out of wood is
Yeah.
it's pretty hard anymore. And this is a great teething toy too.
Yeah.
It's the teething they really love to chew on. It's safe to chew on.
Yeah.
It's a wax finish now, but the wax eventually just wear off and yeah.
You use the word organic with your cider, and so here's another example of organic where it would be safe to put in one's mouth or
Yeah, no chemicals
no
involved.
chemicals. Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
No chemicals.
Okay. Well, you have other things here. People love rocking chairs. Do you want
Yes.
to comment on that? Because I know I have personally enjoyed rocking chairs from the time of 4-H camp at Selbyville, and we would rock and rock and rock. And
Rocking chairs are an American invention. They're not known anywhere else in the world. And I don't know sure if Americans just had more leisure time back in the colonial days, but it was back in the colonial times where it was developed. The rocking chairs were developed by using taking an old chair and either cutting back leg a little bit or just mounting rockers on it. And,
well, how about that?
yeah.
Now there is I'm sure a art to that so that the chair doesn't rock over all the way. I mean,
Right.
You experiment until you get it to be right.
Yes. Well, I've made chairs for people who were short in stature, so they wanted the chair to sit forward a little bit more.
Sure.
So I made the back legs a little bit longer. Or my wife loves to just rock all the way back. She'll put her feet up in the chair and she'll rock all the way back.
All the way
so
back.
I made the runners much more curved for her. So like I said, I do customize, my chairs. I
Right.
can pretty much do anything anyone would like in a chair this style. But this is a shaker style chair. Shaker, I call it shaker inspired. Much simpler lines. The finials are it's my trademark finial.
Okay, tell me about this because that's a new word to me, and you're talking about the ball and the top.
Yes,
This,
every chair has finials.
Okay.
So
In fact, you call yourself Lucky Acorn, right?
Yes. So my finials are shaped like an acorn.
So I'm getting around here to just look at this one, but that's another example. At
Yes,
eye
a
level,
little
but
different.
They're all the same. I mean, now I see those are acorns.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, the lucky acorn is the one that sprouts and grows into
A tree again, huh?
a 300-year-old oak tree.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the lucky acorn.
That's the lucky acorn.
Yeah.
I have an acorn story too. But just when I was a little boy, probably first grade, I picked up an acorn and brought it home. And mother was cleaning out my pants eventually, and she saw my acorn, and she's a biology teacher, had been a biology teacher, and so she said, well, let's plant this. And I already had a little bank from my grandfather who had been a banker, and it said, from mighty oaks from little acorns grow on the bank. So anyway, this became a family project. We planted the oak, and it's at the edge of an animal graveyard. We always had dogs, cats, and we would bury the animals with ceremony. And anyway, that's the most wonderful oak. For me, it's the most wonderful oak in the world, and it's way over 50 years old, 60 years old probably now.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love acorns. I love oaks. Let me say one other test, and this is about individual working, but my wife's test of a rocking chair is when you sit in it, can you put your neck back without it going way over back? So a little bit higher back.
Yes.
And I guess people have preferences that way.
Yes. Would you like to try this one out?
Oh, yes.
Pull that side.
Yes.
We'll just set this down here.
It may pass the test.
Now this has a leather seat. You'll see it's a little more cushioned.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's a little different.
Look at that.
That's a more modern seat. I call that my.
Not hickory, but leather this time.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, it passes the test. Yeah.
Right.
Woo!
Yeah. Now this is my smaller size rocker. You need a big rocker.
Yeah,
And I don't have one here in the studio. But
Wow.
I make a rocker that's much deeper, a deeper seat and a wider seat,
Okay.
so that larger persons can sit in it and feel comfortable.
There's a joke about that, in America that we have bucket seats, and the buckets have gotten bigger.
Yes.
I'm afraid so.
Well, as a chair maker, I've seen that too. I mean, just if someone wants to be comfortable in a chair, it has to fit them.
Sure.
So that's my customizing. I fit chairs to people.
Now, the
no
leather.
matter what.
Why did you choose leather there instead of hickory? Because it sounds like you think about all these things. And,
Yeah,
and
I
have
wanted
good
to.
reasons.
I wanted to give people a choice of the seats.
Okay.
Yeah. And I also use a cotton. No, I don't have one here. I also use a cotton webbing. It's a traditional shaker tape. It's called.
Okay.
It's a cotton webbing in multiple colors that the shakers used in their chairs.
Okay.
And that's another, just to give people an option
Okay.
and the seat.
So someone again, maybe they have an antique chair they want to be upgraded or worked on. Then they could change the bottom. I mean, that might be an option.
Yes.
How do you protect the wood? The wood is so beautiful, and Tom obviously loves his wood because I mean, you've rubbed it and polished it, and it's so beautiful.
Yes.
What are you looking for in wood?
Well, I want the true nature, the true color of the wood to come through. So I don't use any finishes that stain the wood. I want the true color of the wood. So I use oil finishes.
Okay.
Natural oil finishes. So I hand rub the finish.
Like linseed oil or something like cotton oil, whatever it could be called, or you have a choice?
There's a choice. Mostly it's linseed oil or tung oil, or a combination of the two. And a polymerized oil, which means it's been cooked and it dries.
Okay.
Linseed oil doesn't dry if it's not cooked. So I'll start with about 3 or 4 coats, and that's usually enough to seal it up.
And you have a feel for it. I mean,
Yes.
it looks beautiful. I mean, there's a certain look you're getting to perfection, and then okay. And then if you own something like this, then do you have to rub it down once a year or something like that?
Every few years. I mean, the areas that are going to get more wear, the tops of the arms or the tops of the finials where people are putting their hands, occasionally you can just wipe it down with another coat of oil. It looks just brand new again. Yeah. So very little care.
Yeah.
Very little care.
We're blessed to live in a house with a lot of woodwork. There was a Stewart family built this in 1907, and apparently he was a lumberman. And anyway, they've used Murphy's wood soap every year on the wood. And so for our 34 years of watching over the house, we've done the same thing. And it seems to help the wood.
Yes, it cleans it and gives it a little protection.
Yeah.
It's a good finish.
Now we're getting old. You have canes here too.
I do have walking sticks.
Walking sticks, okay.
Yeah. And each one is unique. Different shapes. Different heights, different thicknesses, so for your hand. I just got into these because I was looking for something that anyone could come in and buy. Not everyone's going to buy a chair. They're a bit expensive, but I swear by my walking stick. And maybe it's because of my age, but I like to walk.
Yeah.
I love to walk out in the woods, and I find that this cane I can walk in any conditions. It can be muddy and wet.
Yeah.
And this is ironwood. I don't think I could break this stick if I tried.
Wow.
It's interwoven grain. The grain is interwoven. And I used to go to a lot of craft shows to sell my work. I'm not doing that now. But big burly guy would come up and say, "Oh, this cane."
Right.
I said, "Well, if you could break that cane in half, I'll give you a free cane." And I've never had anyone break one. So the biggest gorilla, there couldn't break them. So very, very strong wood.
I'll tell you a cane story too. I spent a career helping veterans who suffer from PTSD and traumatic brain injury. And anyway, whenever they want to give a gift to each other, they give a cane. And we have, around here, we're blessed with patriotic men and women. 57,000 served in Vietnam in combat in 36 counties of West Virginia, including all of central West Virginia. And so canes can be in great demand as a gift.
Yes.
They'll be appreciated by a veteran, and of course it's very West Virginian.
It is, yeah.
So thank you for making canes.
You're welcome.
It's a patriotic thing to do.
Yeah.
We have a few minutes, Tom. You have some I don't know what kitchen items, or maybe we want to mention a few things like that, and then also, of course, emphasize one more time that we are available here at Artistry on Main. And thanks to Tom and his leadership, and we're now in the second phase of our growth. We are open every day of the year except Christmas and Easter. Everyone should be home with their family, Christmas and Easter, that's a good thing. Otherwise, Saturdays, Sundays, other holidays, right here across from the Dairy Queen, Artistry on Main. But you have something for the...
Well, I might say we're open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Yes.
Monday through Saturday, and then Sunday we're open 12 to 6.
Okay, so that's a nod to people who want to start their day at a reasonable time, and then we're open one more hour from other people downtown probably. So
I think so.
People can shop after work if they want to come by. Or if they're eating at one of the restaurants, they can come by and shop and then go have a good meal.
Or just come by and see the art. Or,
Yeah, absolutely.
or watch a class, watch one of the art classes in progress. Or see what the next classes are that's going to be offered.
One other thing, and I speak to this as being on the school board, but we have children's art from time to time. The elementary schools have been displaying their art here. And so if you're a parent, a grandparent, an aunt or uncle, come with your child and be proud of their work, their art.
Yes.
And then look at this art also.
Yes, in October we'll be featuring art from the schools around the county. We've done this for the last 3 years now. We've had art from every school in the county. So we'll be starting it up again in October. Once the kids are back in school and have a time to produce some art work, we'll get the classes, we'll get the exhibition started.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about this.
Oh, these are scraps that I use. You know, when I cut out one of my slats here.
Okay.
You know, I have this negative space here that's left
okay.
over, and you see that negative space. And over here is the same way. Whoops.
Okay.
That's the negative space.
Sure.
And
so you're not wasting anything.
That's the shape of the slat. And this is the scrap pieces that I just use for firewood. So I picked one up one day and said, this would make a nice little spatula.
Yeah, it will. It is.
So that's what these are. And I use curly maple and cherry and walnut are my 3 woods that I use. This is a piece of cherry. This is a piece of curly maple. And then walnut is the darker wood here in this cherry. Okay. Walnut.
So walnut is.
And this is all local woods. I get all my wood from Upshur County.
Okay.
I don't use any tropical woods. My brother Pete has been very kind and sawed out wood for me. Saved special logs that he's found in his timbering operation. Some salvage logs that would have been just thrown out. He will saw them up in excellent wood. So I'm not only I'm using salvage lumber, but lumber that's all been produced locally, grown and sawn. And
all the more reason for folks to come, see the Artistry on Main, see Tom's work. You want a local product, maybe you have a relative who lives out of town, out of state. This would be a perfect remembrance of Upshur County and probably bring back a lot of fond memories.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Tom, for coming on.
Thank you, Greenbrier.
And thank you for everything you do in the community.
Very welcome.
And we look forward to many other ways to talk about art in our community. Being creative is part of being healthy and being whole. And we certainly have good demonstrations here at Artistry on Main. We'll see you next week.
Stories of a West Virginia Doctor, written by Dr. Harold D. Allman. A collection of 55 short stories about his experience as a small-town doctor in central West Virginia. And Tender Loving Care, Stories from a West Virginia Doctor, Volume 2, written by Dr. Greenbrier Allman, using videotapes to write 70 additional stories of his father's very colorful life as a small-town doctor. They can be found for purchase at Amazon.com and most local bookstores. Tune into Channel 3 Buckhannon for Tender Loving Care with Dr. Greenbrier Allman, where he talks about the connection between Christianity and medicine.